What's up guys, the Strong Boys 19 here. This is going to be another 2021 album review, and I'm going to be talking about the latest album from Dread Sovereign, entitled Alchemical Warfare. This is their third album in their entire discography, released to Metal Blade Records, follow-up to 2017's For Doom the Bell Tolls. And before I start this album review off, I'm going to give a shout out to a YouTuber named The Metal Meltdown. I really like his reviewing style, very passionate, and does tons of great videos and adds a bit of character and different sorts of aspects in a reviewing style of albums. Mostly a lot of album reviews for genres of metal, but if you are into that sort of thing, subscribe to his channel. And by the way, his channel almost reaches 3,000 subscribers, and I highly recommend it. So I'll provide the link in the description below and give this guy a lot of support. Dread Sovereign, with this new album, is the latest offering from a band that I should have discovered ages ago, because this was my introduction to the band. From the look of the cover art, I absolutely love it. The detail was outstanding, and it gave me some intriguing and interested idea to discover this band for this album for the first time. And what I got onto this album is more or less one of the most amazing and repeating listening experiences. As of 2021 starts, there is no other album for me that I've listened to from this month that I would be playing so much more than this one. For those that don't know these guys, Dread Sovereign are an Irish-based doom metal style band, and I absolutely love this kind of genre of metal music because of its separate sounds, its crushing, very filthy and dominating sound, its identity. And I do like to discover many other acts into the metal genre by itself, and Dread Sovereign with this album for me is a fantastic introduction. The songwriting onto the album goes into various different selections, from the guitar riffs to the lyrical content, which basically presents lots of words with mentions onto the witches, Satan, Lucifer, and other dark tales of words that got me intrigued to discover them as deeply as the instrumentation by themselves as well. Let's go to most of the tracks. The album opens things very dark and sinister. 1 minute, I guess, creepy, ambient-ish kind of introduction, which then leads onto the first proper full band song, She-Wolves of the Savage Season, which is 10 minutes long. I absolutely love this song. Starts onto the slow, droning and dooming sounds of these grunty guitars and heavily big sounds of the drums and the bass, but the faster speed comes right in after a couple of minutes on the slow introduction, and it grabs a lot of the edges. It's full of the punch. The great chorus with a unique sounding vocal performance, as that it does feature a lot of different characteristics. A psychedelic type of guitar solo with the wah-wah pedal that is very consistent, as well as this sort of instrumentation that is going to provide us with for the rest of this album. And She-Wolves is one of the strongest tracks of this album immediately. The Great Beast We Serve is another amazing song. From the addicting guitar riffs, this makes me think of a very Tony Iommi-ish Black Sabbath-y style. And when I listen to these tracks more and more, heavily thinking about them over time, it goes into other inspirations in my head that this reminds me of Black Sabbath, to something sludgy and doomy from the Melvins era, to Sleep, and other old school heavy metal sounding bands. And I absolutely find The Great Beast We Serve is one of the standout tracks. Like the previous song, it's extremely catchy, and it's got an intriguing fulfillment that I was getting into the whole vibe of this sort of material. Nature is the Devil's Church. This was the one song that I did listen to before the entirety of this album was released. And this is my favorite on this album. It's phenomenal from the start to the finish because the structure is progressing, but it gets better and better. It starts things very dark on a different ambient style, but then the band explodes into the full whole action with a lot of its heavy grit. The chorus is a standout moment, which makes me think of a similar Motorhead-ish style, but the track grows and grows of fascinating results, awesome guitar riffs, and to finalize the track, they slow things down in a really destructive, slower and slower, abrasive finalize the last touches to the track. And this song is one of the best tracks on this album. Devil's Bane is another one of the tracks where its delivery really works out. From the opening minor pentatonic dirgy guitar riff, the energy to the track gets stronger and better than before after the first listen. This one was like Onto the Great Beast We Serve is another catchy moment. The adrenaline and the endless music to this one was sublime. It is a lot of the pumping that boosts things up massively. Her master's voice, sometimes it goes in various ways on a slower, moody and progressing style. The vocals onto this track get melodic, more onto the disturbing and unnerving pressure. And at the same time, this makes me think in my head that I'm inside a cave, big cloak, hooded up with the rest of the band, with a campfire, but on the top of the flames, there's some fictional burst of magic, and the animation of the magic does animate the music as it does a lot of the talking for each other. That's what I personally thought about when I listened to this track, and this is another one of the favourites for me. Upon the Temple Mount, in terms of the vocals, this is immediately one of the most striking performances. It's going from a low range of vocal notes to some agonizing high-pitched sounds of terror. The music to it, it's a very, very good song with so much of the details. And what I love a lot on this album is the consistency that this album really provides, because I should have said this earlier, but from the opening to the last track, it's on an endless journey, and that is the best amount of descriptions that I could say on this album. The album finishes with, surprisingly, a very different range of aspects. Starts onto a cacophony of noises of guitar feedback, but the sound of this is the fastest and most energized number than the previous tracks. This is more or less a Bathory cover. As much as I like Bathory a lot, I think the band here really makes a sound of their own onto this track. It's got a lot of attitude, the fuzzy guitars, and this is something like a mixture of 70s or 80s classic punk bands with that tinge of Black Sabbath. But I think this was the perfect addition to put in as the final track on the album, because the rest of the previous ones, they connect and gel masterfully well, because on the whole vibe and the experience, that was at a top-notch amount of quality and presentation. Overall, Dread Sovereign's Alchemical Warfare, I love this album from the start to the finish. At 50 plus minutes, almost 10 tracks of material, the production is an outstanding mark. It's an achieving sound. I love the distortion guitar sounds, highly cranked up fuzzy sounds that is menacing, and the maddening big booming bass guitar works as efficiently, as well as the drums. But on the vocals, its own separate sound is another big sound that dominates one whole thing. As I kept playing this more and more and more, it was an immediate grower. I really enjoyed it on first listen, but in this case and scenario, over time, this album definitely is one of the strongest albums, not only from January, but of 2021 as a whole. I am interested to know what you guys personally think of this album in the comments down below. So, for an album rating, I guess this is going to be pretty predictable for me. I'm not going to go overboard to overhype this, but for now, I would give this a 9 out of 10. And like I said earlier, check out the Metal Meltdown. Awesome videos and a great amount of work that has been put into his channel. Needs more of the dedication and the attention. So that's all I would like to say for Dread Sovereign's new album, Alchemical Warfare. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.